Are you looking to make it to the top universities in the United States or in the UK? Well, a higher education consultancy group aims to help students enter leading educational institutions abroad. We get to know more about Crimson Education with CEO and founder Jamie Beaton. He's based in Auckland, but is now traveling to Manila. Welcome to Manila, Jamie.
It's a pleasure to be here.
All right, and you'll be traveling around the world.
Yeah, it's amazing. We've got Crimson teams in about 20 countries, and it's really fascinating to see all these international students making their way to these amazing universities.
And a lot of students around the world, even here in the Philippines, want to study in top US and UK and Asian universities. And how difficult is it? I mean, to even apply to get into, let's say, a Harvard, a Yale, a Stanford, a Cambridge, or an Oxford, Jamie?
It's a great question. Crimson's helped over 800 kids get into the Ivy League, but it is a tough process. The process for the US involves academics, extracurriculars, and leadership. Academics will often include things like the advanced placement or the IB, the SAT, which is now optional, but for Ivy League aspiring kids, often quite necessary. The schools want to see your intellectual vitality. And then there's extracurriculars for all 4 years of high school. And then, of course, those complicated admissions essays. So it's quite a strategic process. And we recommend kids begin when they're about 14. That's when I began my journey. And
14, that's like grade 9.
Yeah, grade 9, grade 10 is the ideal time to start if you're really serious about those Ivy League schools.
And what is the success rate of Crimson when it comes to student admissions in some of these top universities around the world?
So it's been amazing. Over 800 Ivy League offers. More than 150 kids have gotten into the University of Pennsylvania alone. Just this year in the early admissions round, we had 85 kids get into the Ivy League and 12 into Stanford. Also, this experience is really personal to me. I came from New Zealand and studied at Harvard myself, and went off to Stanford, Yale, and Oxford, and I really take great joy in helping more kids unlock that journey.
But of course, to be able to unlock that journey, the first step, of course, Jamie, is that you need also good grades, right?
Of course, yes.
Apart from the extracurricular and the well-written essays that you submit to these universities.
That's right, and the academic standards are rising and rising. The average score for our students in this round who got into Harvard and Stanford was about 1560 out of 1600 in the SAT. And definitely each year the bar is getting higher. A lot of students now are also taking extra advanced placement courses alongside their IB, or even getting as many as 10 to 15 different APs if that's their main curriculum. So the bar is rising academically. Schools like Harvard even ask you what extra university courses are you taking, what online courses are you doing, summer programs, things like that. So the academic bar is growing.
Academic bar is really leveling up. But let's say me, I'm a student.
Yes.
I come to you, Jamie, from Crimson, and I say, I want to go to this school, I want to go to this school. What would be your advice? Should a student apply for 5 to 10 universities that he will, for him to make sure that he will get into one of the universities, or just into like 2 or 3 universities of his choice?
Actually, my advice would be neither of those. When I applied to universities, I applied to 25 of the world's top schools.
25?
Yes. Fortunately, I got into all those schools, and I ended up going
You're
to
one
Harvard.
of the rare few in this world.
But honestly, I think why that might sound a bit ridiculous, our average Crimson client applies for about 15 schools today. Because if you think about it, the admissions odds to Harvard today are about 3%. To Columbia, they're about 5%.
Acceptance rates.
Acceptance rates, yeah. Exactly, sorry. And so, statistically speaking, you want to make sure you've got a lot of shots at this. The UK's got higher admissions odds, so schools like Oxford will admit typically about 15% of international students, but we recommend about that 15 mark. If you're going to be applying for less, you want to make sure you've got those safety schools in there as well, which you can rely on to get in consistently.
Minimum of 15, maximum of 25 applications, but of course, this also requires, Jamie, money. Because for each of these applications, you have to pay a fee of between $70 to $100. And that also is a lot of money for a lot of Filipino parents.
Absolutely. The good thing is there's actually application fee waivers. And schools like Harvard and Stanford are very committed to making more international students come to their doors. So we've actually seen many of our students be successful for those fee waivers, which means the kids can apply to more schools. And so that's actually typically a pretty simple process to apply for. So you can actually waive those costs.
All right. What if a student comes to you and says, I want to get into Harvard, Yale, Dartmouth, Brown, all these Ivy League schools, UPenn, but he doesn't have the grades. Will you advise him that it is not a reach, it is not attainable for him to be able to get into these universities, and you will suggest another set of universities that he may be able to enter, which are still excellent universities in America?
Absolutely. So we have an algorithm at Crimson which we've really fine-tuned over many years, and we use that to calibrate what kind of schools we're recommending for our clients. So our students are about 4 times more likely to get into their target schools, but of course, if your stats are below a certain threshold, you just can't get into a school like a Harvard or a Stanford. We might recommend you some other brilliant institutions. It could be a University of California school. It could be, for example, a liberal arts college like Williams, Amherst, or Swarthmore. Maybe it's a school like an NYU. And you've got to also use rounds like early decision strategically to boost those odds.
Early decisions basically come out in the month of December.
Yes, middle of December. It's a very nervous time.
A very nervous time for a lot of students. And if you get an early decision in a U.S. university, then you have to drop all the other applications where you are accepted.
That's right, then you're locked. The difference is if you do early action to schools like Harvard, Yale, or Princeton, when you get that offer, you can still apply to more schools after that. But early decision is binding. Another interesting tip for your viewers is that in the regular round now, more and more universities are actually doing early decision 2, where you can apply at schools like Johns Hopkins or UChicago, and you can tell them, if you admit me, I'll go. In exchange, they give you a higher admissions rate, but you've got to commit. So that part is an important aspect to your strategy for university admissions.
All right, that's for the United States. What about for the UK? They need your IB score, your International Baccalaureate score. But if you don't attain that score, then you're taken out of the list?
Exactly. So that's the conditional offer process. So when you apply for schools, so I had an offer for economics at King's College, Cambridge. And they told me, well, we've given you this offer, but you need to achieve these minimum A-level scores to get in. The good news is virtually all our Crimson kids end up achieving those conditional offers, but of course that's the final academic bar you've got to pass. So the big challenge for Oxbridge admissions or Oxford Cambridge admissions is nailing that interview, which is pretty intense, those admissions tests like the thinking skills assessment, and then finally achieving that conditional offer. In rare occasions you can receive an unconditional offer, but the vast majority of our nearly 200 Ivy League, 200 Oxford Cambridge offers are conditional offers. So you've got to hit those scores and then get in. So no slacking in the last month.
No slacking indeed. Because I know some of my son's classmates, they slacked.
And can't slack.
You can't slack. And they didn't get that IB score.
They're out.
They were out. They were not accepted in a UK university. All right. Of course, you have the academic mentors, you have the test and subject tutors to help students here in the Philippines to be able to enter some of these major universities. But I'm sure the parents would also want to find out, what are the fees? What fees do they have to spend? And with Crimson, to be able to, for Crimson to help them out?
It's a great question. So when I launched Crimson, my vision was really to make sure that students can access this kind of support they need to get into top universities. So the fees range from about 8K USD to about 16K USD for our base offering. But we actually have a very big scholarship program, the world's biggest in our industry, where we help more than 100 kids pro bono across the world. So we've had kids actually from my home country of New Zealand, from the Maori community, getting full scholarships to schools like Harvard, Duke, and also this year, Columbia. And we do help with those scholarships to kids here in Manila as well. We just had a boy actually from Manila this cycle get into Stanford to study computer science after achieving a brilliant IB score of 44. Very proud of him.
Well, the perfect score is 45.
Yeah, very close.
Very close. All right, and usually this 300 to 400,000 peso fee, is this from 14 years old up until they get accepted into a US or UK university?
Yes, so typically it's about, that covers about age 16 to 18, which is the average age a Manila family today joins the program. But for the students joining a little bit younger, it'd be a tad more, but not that much more. That is pretty accurate.
All right. Thank you so much for explaining to us the services of Crimson Education. CEO and co-founder, Jamie Beaton.
Thank you so much.